Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of Formula 1 2019 Career Mode. We are back now for Season 2 and just brilliant. I actually lost footage for the first race of the season at Australia, but we moved to Ferrari over the off-season as Charles Leclerc. He couldn't win last season with Ferrari while Sebastian Vettel was doing much better, so Ferrari took a chance to do a quick swap and we go from Haas to Ferrari, Leclerc down to Haas. Now, coming into this season, we had some driver swaps. Daniel Ricciardo, one of them going to Williams. We had Alexander Albon on Williams. Kubica went to Toro Rosso. You see now Ferrari down to 4th in the R&D. So we're coming into the season not really expecting to win right off the bat. We had a 4th place finish in Australia, actually. A great result in Australia for myself. We had Valtteri Bottas actually DNF, so that gave me an extra position. Sebastian Vettel had a mechanical issue, which also helped me get ahead of him. So we should have been about 6th. But we got 4th instead. Now going into the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend, though Bahrain's a track that I struggle at quite a bit, so I was a little bit concerned coming into this one. Obviously, being, like I said, 4th in the R&D, we're not coming into the season expecting to win right away. I think we just got to keep on working on the car, and probably, or hopefully by mid-season, we can become a force that can contend for victories here in Formula 1 now as we would get ready to go qualifying here in Bahrain. We had a good qualifying effort in Australia. Like I said, a great race for myself in Australia. Unfortunately, you guys couldn't see that, but we come through into Q3 here in Bahrain qualifying as it came to the final corner. This was the only lap that I had attempted to make. Now as we come through, activating the DRS as I would cross the line, going P7 at the moment, 7/10 off, so quite a bit off from the pole sitter at that moment of Valtteri Bottas. Sebastian was up to 2nd, but he actually dropped down to P5 as we would be in P9 as we get ready to go green here for the Bahrain Grand Prix. So let's get straight into the action here at Bahrain.
The curtain rises once more then on the desert stage of Sakhir as the players take their places for the opening act. Will they enthrall us like they did in 2014 with that titanic battle between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton? Well, we'll find out shortly as we get underway here in Bahrain. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Why don't we discuss McLaren? We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the signs haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
There are a few downcast looks within the team this weekend. I think they've been hit fairly hard by the new regs. But this is only the first step down a long road of development, and even if they don't maximise their points today, there are plenty more up for grabs this season.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Weber, Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, and Perez, Gasly, Leclerc, the Rainmaster, and Devon Butler, Sainz, Grosjean, Alexander Albon, and Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Kevin Magnussen, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Stroll and Robert Kubica takes the last spot on the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
Alright, there you hear it from Jeff. We are on a 2-stop strategy, starting on the soft tire, going to put on 2 sets of mediums in this Grand Prix as I take some fuel out of the car, making sure we don't forget that I'm starting to get a little bit better at that here as we get ready to go green. So first race on YouTube for this season now as we get ready here on the formation lap. P9, Charles Leclerc there in P8 in the Haas. He actually out-qualified me in Australia by 1 position. I was able to pass him quite quickly now as we start this formation lap, getting ready to go green here for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Track that I've struggled at in the past, so hopefully we can get at least maybe like a top 8, top 7 here today in Bahrain. That's right about where our car is ranked on the R&D, so I'd be very happy with that here to start Bahrain Grand Prix with race number 2 on this season, but race 1 for the YouTube season now as we get ready to go green. We have Valtteri Bottas on the pole with Lewis Hamilton in P2 now as this lights out. We are underway for the Bahrain Grand Prix. There you see Lucas Faber, I believe that is in the Racing Point in P3 now, as actually, no, that's Sergio Perez as we go down towards turns 1. There's a winglet that goes flying, though, from somebody, and that was actually Charles Leclerc as we come through these first sets of corners. No, that is Lucas Weber now in P2, sorry, as Lewis Hamilton drops down to P3 as we come through in still the 9th position, so we didn't lose any positions on that opening start. Now, Charles Leclerc, like I said, he lost a winglet there on that opening start as we went down towards turns 1, so we know that through these next few corners he might drop off a little bit, and that's going to be an opportunity for us to pounce. There you see the pace drop off already for Charles Leclerc, so we need to make a pass right away, so we're going to send it up the inside right now as we go down into the right-hander, locking up a little bit, but we do clear Charles Leclerc and take over the 8th position now as we make the stretch through this second sector. At this point now, setting our sights on the Racing Point driver of Sergio Perez. Our teammate Sebastian Vettel with a solid start as well. He runs P4 at the moment as we run P8 now, trying to break that draft from Charles Leclerc as we head down the DRS straight. No DRS obviously at the moment until lap 3 as we come through this left-hander. I was noticing quite early on in this Grand Prix that the car wasn't just quite turning as much as I would like it to through the corners, so I decided we were actually going to make a little bit of a downforce adjustment on the front lane as we came through now on lap 3 with DRS activated. Hadn't really gained on the cars up ahead of Sergio Perez or the Red Bulls of Verstappen and Gasly. Verstappen, I must mention, he won the Australian Grand Prix, so he currently leads the points. Obviously, I had the fastest lap actually in the Australian Grand Prix, so I was able to get an extra point. I barely edged out Lewis Hamilton for the fastest lap at the Australian Grand Prix. Now, as came through on lap 5 at this point, Perez still trying to put the pressure on the Red Bull driver. I believe he was battling Gasly at this point. And sure enough, he would get past Gasly as we came through now on lap 6. Just couldn't quite run these guys down at this point, running in P8. Behind us, it was Devin Butler, but now coming through to make our first pit stop of the day. Obviously, one more coming later in this Grand Prix as we got a very early pit box now. Not used to that as we come through into our pit box there. And certainly going to be a much faster time than we're used to. Obviously, with Haas, it was in the high 2 seconds, if I remember correctly, sometimes 3 seconds, but this one's just a 2.061 second pit stop now as all of these cars come through to pass us. We drop down into P20 for the moment now, is get ready to rejoin the track. Obviously, you don't have to worry about any rejoining issues as there's no one behind us now as you come through down towards turns 1. But still settling in here with this new team at Ferrari. Hopefully we can spend quite a few seasons with this team unless they decide to fire me or something. Now, as we came through though on lap 8, later on lap 8, we had actually started to run down these guys. We passed Robert Kubica, who's on the Toro Rosso now, and we had run down Kvyat Stroll, who's back in F1 as he has now joined Renault. And now as we come through to start lap 9, we look to the right hand side of Kvyat. We're going to make a 3 wide there with the fellow Canadian of Stroll and Kvyat as we go down towards turns 1 as well, going up the inside of Kevin Magnussen there as we go through the left-hander. So we get ahead of Kevin Magnussen now as we head down the straightaway up into P14 at this moment now, just running down all of these guys up ahead like Antonio Giovinazzi, who stays with Alfa Romeo for a season. But closing in towards the halfway point at this point here as we came through now on lap 10, we had run down Giovinazzi with the DRS, so I'm looking over to the left-hand side, and now we make the pass on Giovinazzi here as we easily get past him. No struggles, and also continuing to move our way through this field. Now is the last season we're kind of getting used to racing around some of these guys, but now here we are just flying by them. Now as we came through towards the end of lap 10, running down Ricciardo and Kimi Räikkönen. Ricciardo makes a move to the right-hand side, and we're going to make a move to the even further right, make a 3 wide with both Ricciardo and the Williams, and Räikkönen and the Alfa Romeo as we go down into turns 1 a little bit deep, but we do keep it the line just consistent, make sure we don't run into anybody there as we now are up into P11 at this point as we go down the straightaway. The Williams had a lot of speed, I noticed now as we came through on lap 13, running down the next group of cars, making a move up the inside there of Carlos Sainz, a little bit aggressive, but we do make it work now as we're up into P10 at this point, trying to run down our former teammate of Roman Grosjean as we come through the left-hander there. You see Pierre Gasly up ahead. He had actually just come to the pit lane and exited, so he was out in front of me now as we came through on lap 14. Gasly and Grosjean both battling it out as we go down into the final corner. That's not a good entrance for neither of them now as we come through on the exit of the corner. A little bit of oversteer now as we put the ERS and overtake DRS activated fuel on rich mode as we head down this front straightaway, closing in on Grosjean. We're going to look to the right-hand side of Roman Grosjean, and now he looks to the left-hand side of Gasly as we go down into turns 1, 3 wide again here as we go through the center of the corner, a little bit wide again, but we do keep it clean as we come through the left-hander, and now we are up well inside the top 10 at the moment, running P7 now as Gasly tries to fight back, but just doesn't quite have enough now as we go down through the right-hander, approaching the end of this first sector. but very happy with the pace I had on this soft tires. We came through now on lap 16, trying to break that draft from Gasly, who was able to stick with me fairly well. Sebastian Vettel, our teammate, had just come in for his second pit stop of the Grand Prix. He actually made his first pit stop after me and made his second pit stop before me, so interesting there from our teammate of Sebastian Vettel. Lucas Weber comes through to set the fastest lap on lap 17. At this point, though, getting ready to make our second and final pit stop of the Grand Prix here as we come through on the entrance. Gasly goes on by now as we come onto the pit lane, hoping for a very solid pit stop. We were actually on track to set a personal best lap right there, but now that doesn't matter. Obviously, as the Haas goes by there, I believe that was Roman Grosjean. As Charles Leclerc, his teammate, was actually a little bit off the pace, obviously, due to that wing damage that he got in on the opening start here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Our teammate Sebastian Vettel already has gone past us. We're still in the top 10 though, so I was very happy with that. Now there's a Williams closing in on the back of us, and that's Alexander Albon as we go down towards turns 1, but thankfully we get out just in front of him, so we're not going to really have to worry about Albon here now as we approach the final 10 laps here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now as it came through towards the later half though, on lap 18 through the left-hander, there was a little bit of a yellow flag there on the track map, meaning that someone's got an issue, and it is indeed the Alfa Romeo. I believe that is Antonio Giovinazzi, who's pulling over off the track now on the left-hand side there, so he is out of this Grand Prix, and that would be our first DNF of the Bahrain Grand Prix. So very unfortunate for Giovinazzi. Now he came through at the end of lap 19, actually setting the fastest lap of the race with the 129.563. Not a great lap, but it was good enough to go fastest at this point now as we came through down into turns 1. So very happy with that. We had the fastest lap, like I said, in Australia, and we're trying to back that up again here today as we came through now on lap 21. 10.5 seconds behind our teammate of Sebastian Vettel now as we have trouble up ahead though, and it's the 70 car of Lucas Weber, our former F2 teammate, who's blowing up now as he's going to pull off the track. He had a great race going for him, and he will pull off course, and that will be an extra position gain for myself now, as that will put us up into P7 once we go by there with quite a big lockup there into the left-hander. But now, so we move up to P7 as we came through at this point on lap 23. We were actually closing the gap to our teammate of Sebastian Vettel, so we were having a much better last run than he was. Now 10.3 seconds behind, and the more laps we ran, it felt like the more I was able to gain on Sebastian. But obviously the big hurdle is there's just nowhere near enough time in the Bahrain Grand Prix to go. Obviously approaching the final 5 laps as we cross the line right here. At this point, it was now getting to under 10 seconds to Sebastian Vettel. It was into the 9-second range. But like I said, clearly not enough time to get to our teammate of Sebastian Vettel at this point as we exit the final corner. So on an island of my own at this point, just kind of maintaining the car towards the end of this race. Now 9.7 seconds to Vettel as we came to lap 27, approaching 2 to go. I was actually saving up the ERS and whatnot, getting ready to see if I could make one final hot lap and see if I could get one more fastest lap, even though we already hold it, and I'm not sure if it's going to be quite beaten, but I wanted to just try and set up a fastest lap one more time again as we come through to the final lap here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now 9.3 seconds behind Vettel, so consistently just biting into that gap to Sebastian, just not enough time. Obviously, I mean, the way I was gaining, I mean, it was probably going to take us another 30 laps or so to even get to Sebastian if I was gaining at that rate. So obviously, just not enough pace to quite get to him. The first few, two little runs, that was really where Sebastian was able to stretch out that gap. Obviously, being behind on the start didn't help us much now as we come through. The S is over a 10th off, though, as we come through the final corner. It's Valtteri Bottas, actually, who's going to come out of the last corner, and he is going to win here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. And second place will go to Max Verstappen, and third place is Sergio Perez. So Lewis Hamilton goes the first 2 races winless this season after winning the championship last season as we come through the right-hander on this final sector now here in Bahrain as we have some oversteer and we spin the car out here in the penultimate corner. Not what I wanted to do, of course. Now as we get the car back going, thank goodness that there was no one around to where we're going to lose any time, so certainly wasn't expecting that. That just kind of caught me off guard now as we head down the straightaway towards the final corner here in the Bahrain Grand Prix. 8th place belongs to our former teammate of Roman Grosjean now as we exit the final corner, heading down the front straightaway. P7 it will be here in Bahrain.
Not good enough. Not good enough at all. Let's push harder next time, okay?
That's it for another Grand Prix and a fantastic win for Mercedes. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes. Championship.
Alright, so there you see the finishing order on the screen. Lewis Hamilton, the first driver to miss the podium. Pierre Gasly, 5th. Myself and Vettel, so 6th and 7th. 7th, I was happy with. You heard Jeff at the end of the race. He wasn't happy with 7th, even though our car is in the R&D. It should be running 7th and 8th right now, so I was pretty happy with 7th place finish, especially at a track that I struggle at quite a bit. Once again, we barely edged out Lewis Hamilton for the fastest lap. We still lead the points over Sebastian Vettel, at least in the Ferrari camp. Obviously, we don't lead the overall standings as that belongs to Max Verstappen. It was a 13-point lead over Lewis Hamilton. In the constructors, 17 behind right now here with Ferrari. So a solid first episode to start the season. Still would have loved to have been able to show you guys Australia. That was a really fun race. A rep actually dropped quite considerably for Ferrari. Not sure what that was about. I still felt like we did a solid job. But as always, though, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Those would all be very, very appreciated. So in the next one, we go to a track that I do enjoy quite a bit, the Chinese Grand Prix. That's where I got my first win in F1 2018 career mode, at least on the YouTube side. So we'll see how we can do over there. We're going to make some improvements with the R&D, and hopefully we can bring some more speed here within the coming episodes. So thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode, and now we see you guys in the next one for the Chinese Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day, everybody.